was properly posted on Tuesday, April 18th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of March 16th?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 4 is a resolution to honor Kevin Jacobs, District 3.
We'll vote on that.
Maybe a close vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unfortunately, today is a very sad day. It's also a day of great rejoicing, as I am named Chief Deputy for District 3. So, unfortunately, though, that can't take place without the leaving of Kevin Jacobs, who actually was hired when I left the first time, and so it's just been kind of like a bunch of clowns rotating through the little car in District 3 with Rick Buchanan and Kevin Jacobs and myself. And what you see here is allegedly a photograph of Kevin Jacobs. And so after the Budget Board meeting, the Commissioner does actually have a presentation. So after we adjourn, you will certainly want to hang out so that you can see the many faces of Kevin Jacobs. And then you are invited to a reception up in the District 3 offices immediately following that to honor Kevin and the contributions that he's made here at Oklahoma County. And also, I think maybe after adjournment, we'll have an opportunity to say nice things about Kevin.
I would have to say, after looking at this picture, I know now why he wears a beard.
Yes, exactly. So before we digress,
that's kind of what we had in mind.
Any further, I'd be happy to read this. This is a resolution honoring District 3 Chief Deputy Kevin Jacobs for his service to the citizens of Oklahoma County and naming Thursday, April 20th, 2017 as Kevin Jacobs Day in Oklahoma County, Oklahoma. Whereas Kevin Jacobs is a man dedicated to his faith, family, and public service. And whereas Kevin Jacobs graduated from Shawnee High School in 1978 and from Oklahoma Christian College in 1982 with a BS in accounting. And whereas Kevin Jacobs graduated from Vanderbilt University School of Law in Nashville, Tennessee in 1985. And whereas upon graduating law school, Kevin Jacobs returned to Oklahoma and pursued a successful private sector career, including a law practice focused on business, real estate, and estate planning, as well as serving as president of Crosswinds Development Group and the Banta Companies. And whereas Kevin Jacobs served his alma mater, Oklahoma Christian University, for 16 years, including over 5 years as the university's president. And whereas in 2010, Kevin Jacobs joined the staff of District 3 County Commissioner Ray Vaughn as Deputy Commissioner, later becoming Chief Deputy and serving in that position for 5 years. And whereas Kevin Jacobs has served the citizens of Oklahoma County with dedication and distinction, and is known by his colleagues for his positive attitude, friendly demeanor, and hearty laugh. And whereas Kevin Jacobs is now leaving Oklahoma County to once again focus on his private sector pursuits. And whereas Kevin Jacobs is known for being a man of great faith and a loving, dedicated husband, father, and grandfather, now therefore be it resolved, the Budget Board of Oklahoma County proclaims Thursday, April 20th, 2017 as Kevin Jacobs Day in Oklahoma County, and wishes Kevin Jacobs great happiness and continued success in his new position.
I move that resolution, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any comments from the board?
No.
Yes. Yes.
No, I was voting no.
Oh.
No, I'll vote yes.
Forgive him, for he knows not what he does. I just want to say publicly to Kevin, you have been a joy to be around. I just absolutely enjoy listening to you share your brain with us, because it's an awesome brain, and I appreciate very much. I've learned a lot since you've been here. Not only have I learned a lot from your brain, I've learned a lot about your humbleness. I really appreciate that. This is a crazy job. Anybody that does this job is crazy. They're all nuts. And we need people like you to be around us from time to time to keep us grounded. And I absolutely appreciate you And I absolutely appreciate Juliet. And you tell her I love you and I'm gonna miss you so much.
Kevin, I can truthfully say I've had many friends throughout my life. I hope to have many more as life continues, but I have no better friend than Kevin Jacobs.
Right.
I think in the resolution, the thing that stands out to me the most are your positive attitude, friendly demeanor, and hearty laugh. That laugh will be legend forever. What will also be legend is you have impacted this county in so many positive ways.
Right.
The many things that you've been able to do here, clearly, you're the one who works the issues. You're the one who works the issues because of statutes and requirements and open meetings and that type of stuff. You're able to work some stuff. Nothing illegal, obviously, but I want to emphasize that. But I would say that I am going to personally miss you tremendously. I know it's not as if you're going to disappear and never see you again, but I now face a life of lunch with Jerry Stone, and he and I just sit and look at each other during lunch. So when you were there, at least he had people to pick on.
Well, first off, when he's reading the resolution, I was wondering who it was.
Others?
Kevin, there's an old saying, they say, new friends are like silver and old friends are like gold. It's great to make new ones, but always keep the old. Hope you keep your friendship.
I like
And
that.
Kevin, you're always welcome back here. Great to
He ain't
get to
coming
know
back
you.
here.
I know. You're always welcome.
Well, and I'd just like to finish up by saying that, I've known Kevin since the 80s, since he came back to Oklahoma Christian. I was serving as general counsel for a short period of time there, doing some estate planning and working with the school while I was doing my private practice in Edmond. And Kevin was always a great colleague from the university. He actually, before he became president, he headed the Oklahoma Christian Investment Corporation, which was a tax-paying legal entity that actually acquired real estate and managed real estate for the school to produce an income from those properties. So he's been doing this kind of stuff for a very long time, and he's very good at it. And when I had the opportunity to hire him to come down here, I was very glad to be able to do that to replace Mr. Graw. And he's been just a great friend and a great employee over those years, and I feel like we've made a lot of good advancements at the county as a result of Kevin's input and his leadership and his advice. So you will be missed, Kevin, but I won't be saying that again. So we normally have quite a bit of levity in our office, so at each other's expense most of the time. So and we enjoy doing that, but sometimes you've got to be serious. That's my serious time, and we'll get unserious a little bit later. And I want to encourage everyone to stay. That was the first slide that you saw of a presentation that we've got for you, but it's going to have to be after the meeting. We don't want to take too much public time here for this, so we'll do that after the meeting adjourns.
I'll just end by saying thank you, Kevin, for your friendship, and we get to reminisce about Safari often and other things that we've had a connection on, and I appreciate the involvement I've had with you in your professional capacity, but like Butch, we'll be friends, continue on. Thank you for your service. All right, if nothing further, is there any motions on the consent docket?
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 34 is a transfer of appropriations from General Fund District 3.
Yes, that's just a standard end of the year transfer so that we can pay salaries out of the travel funds that we don't use. Move item 34.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
35 is again transfer, but this time from IT. Rob, is there anything you want to say about it?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'd just like to also reiterate how much I've enjoyed hanging around Kevin. He is really a joy to talk to, and not just about work. He's a very interesting guy, and it's always nice to talk to folks about other things and what's going on around here. So it was always nice to be able to visit with him about that. So we're going to be very sad to see him go. This transfer is to move some money to purchase the DR equipment. That's been a long-awaited thing, for the county. It's definitely necessary. We had some, license fee expenses at the beginning of the year. We tried our best to anticipate what the license fees were gonna be. It ended up being a little bit more than we anticipated, because it was sort of an unsure thing. But we have all of that right now. And so this transfer is to bring some money back down that we didn't anticipate in the beginning of the fiscal year. And now we'll be able to move forward with the purchase of disaster recovery equipment that the budget board approved last year.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Donna, you want to talk to us about the free fair? Oh, she's not here. Okay. Does anybody else want to talk to us about the free fair?
How come the free fair cost us $1,350? Never mind.
I think this is just a transfer in their budget to cover that.
Yeah.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And again, OSU extension, this is from travel to operation necessary for monthly operating expenses.
Same purpose. I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Christie, you want to say anything about 38?
I'm not finished. I want to talk about 37.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
You know, we sent a contract to OSU back in October of 16,
Okay.
and we haven't gotten that contract back. So I don't know that we need to approve this today. I think we need that contract.
What was it a contract for?
I don't know. But
Well,
we don't
this
have
is,
it.
this is to finish up their budget for the year.
Let me talk to the other legal person.
Commissioner, if my memory serves, and please take that for what it's worth, I don't always trust my memory. I think I may have seen that they finally did sign that contract, but I think it was just last month. I mean, I think it was very, very recently.
Yeah.
So if that helps allay your concerns at all, I could double check on that.
Well, you know, I'm gonna.
Why don't we ask the free fair person?
Well, she's not there.
This is OSU. You're talking OSU extension.
And come on up, Cody. While he's coming, I'm gonna say that I've been a little bit uncomfortable with us approving things that we don't have contracts for. And we've had discussions in my office about that. And I guess I just missed the discussion where we got that.
Well, if there was an unsigned contract, and I don't know on this, but if there was a contract that's been unsigned, it would be for next year, would it not be? This is finished this year.
No.
Finished this year.
The commissioners on their meeting, I think it was October 3rd or somewhere around there of 2016, based upon a recommendation from the Infrastructure Committee, had sent two contracts to BOCC, and BOCC had signed both contracts. One was for a lease for the county-owned property that OSU utilizes for the Extension Services Center, and the second was a contract because the DA's office has talked to us regularly about them not being a county department and not utilizing purchasing department and that kind of stuff, so we wanted to make sure that everything was legal. So BOCC passed a contract for this current fiscal year that was going to change some of those parameters. And my understanding is about a month ago we received the lease agreement for this current fiscal year, and we a month ago or a couple weeks ago received an updated contract for the contractual portion, not the lease agreement, for next fiscal year, but we do not have a lease agreement back for next fiscal year or a contract back for this fiscal year.
And my recollection isn't very specific as to which documents that I might have seen. I would have to just double check on that.
So what would you advise me to do today? Because I want it to be right.
I don't think it would prohibit this board from approving the transfer. It's certainly something, I share your concern with the fact that there was some apparent significant delay for reasons that we don't know, and hopefully that won't occur again for the next fiscal year. But I think the board can proceed with the transfer if they choose to.
Have we already voted on it?
No. No, we voted on it, but I said no.
We did vote on it.
Yeah, and I voted no, and so I am willing, to withdraw my no vote. If everything you tell me is true, and could you please let me know when you see them?
Did you no vote on it?
I appreciate that.
All right,
It's unanimous for right now.
okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Item 38, now, Christie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just quickly, the majority of the transfers for ours were due to when they started the budget year, the funds got allocated automatically into accounts rather than coming to us and saying, where do you want, how much do you want here and how much do you want here. So we knew from that point we were going to need to move funds somewhere in the year, but we just figured we'd wait to the end because we knew we'd be transferring something toward the end of the year, so we just waited to move it where it would need to go. That's the majority of it, and the part going into capital, just for the record, because it's not the same circumstance. The part going into capital is we had a piece of equipment sale on Monday, so it was an ice machine that went out, and we're having to replace that. So that's what that part is about.
Who got it?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 39,
Thank you, Christine.
John, you want to?
Good morning. This is just a routine transfer back to salaries. Beginning of the fiscal year, we had to transfer some money down to maintenance and operations to maintain that 10% balance with the large contracts that we had encumbered. So this is just to move it back to where it initially was at.
Okay.
Question.
Yes, sir.
We've been asking for additional money. Do we have that $2 billion in there all the time? It could have been transferred anytime for some of those other.
We're not asking for an additional $2 million right now. This was
No, but
everything that was budgeted.
you've asked for other things, and you're doing it today to make a transfer, but you could also have transferred that earlier for some other requests, couldn't you?
No, sir. This money was budgeted to salaries and benefits on July 1st. Due to the fact that we had to encumber almost $10 million in contracts in July, there was not a line item budgeted in M&O to maintain that 10% balance. We transferred money down from our budget and salaries and benefits down to M&O until the 90% revenue was brought into the county, and now we're transferring it back up to the original line items that it was budgeted for the fiscal year.
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Item 40, I don't see David, but $7,500 transfer to replace the antenna at the Spencer Jones radio tower.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Danny, our monthly report.
Well, that is taking number one is I appreciate the department heads that are here to explain their motions. If I put a motion on the budget board, I think I'd want to be here to defend it, because I might be afraid the motion might go the wrong way. It might go from 2,500 switching to zero. So I appreciate it. Almost happened that way. So I kind of think the word to the wise there is, if you want to keep your money, you might want to show up and explain it. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Thanks for showing up, Danny.
I'm glad I'm here. All right, good morning. I feel honored to speak to you today on Kevin Jacobs Day.
Did you get his permission?
I did not. I did just want to say one thing. With working with Kevin for all these years, one thing I'll always remember is I don't think I've ever had a discussion with Kevin where I didn't walk away laughing. So I'm gonna miss you, Kevin. Best of luck to you. All right, the monthly financial report. I want to start out on page 3. We'll take a look at general fund for the month of March. To date, we have collected almost 96% of our general fund revenue from what we budgeted. Getting over the 90% has allowed the departments to go ahead and spend the rest of their budget. You know, there's that rule that until you reach 90% of collections, you can't spend more than 90% of your budget. With that said, I would encourage departments, just because that rule's been lifted, please be mindful, you don't have to spend it all. Every dollar you don't spend, we get to carry forward into next year, and will help build next year's budget. Still on...
Seed corn.
Seed corn, that's it.
Seed corn speech.
Yeah.
Insert here.
Still on general fund, page 5, comparison to last year. To date, we have collected $3.9 million more in revenue than a year ago. That's a 5.4% increase. We had budgeted a 2.6% increase, so we're a little bit ahead of where we should be this time of year. I think it's more just a timing issue on the March property tax collection. So we're in good shape there. Year-to-date expenditures, budget-wise, we're down $3.1 million. That's about a 28% decrease. A 5.7% decrease over the same time last year. Most of that is about $3.6 million of that is the Sheriff's Department. Again, it's just from them shifting salary and benefits from their special revenue funds to general fund. All right, let's talk about Employee Benefits Fund, page 11. All right, we finished the month of March with a cash balance of $929,980 in employee benefits. Projecting out the rest of the year, just based on March's number, we estimate we're going to come up about $1.6 million short. We do have April's medical and prescription numbers as well. April doesn't look any better than it did in March, so when you plug in April's numbers, that deficit stays about the same. So we've got in reality, we have 2 months left. If the projections come out the way we anticipate, medical and prescription claims alone will be an increase of $4.1 million more paid out this year than last year. We have received more in stop-loss reimbursements than we did a year ago. To date, we've received about $926,000 in stop-loss reimbursements. So when you net that out, we're looking at overall about a $3.2 million increase in medical and prescription claims paid out this year. That's about an 18% increase, and John is going to touch on that on the next item. With that said, you'll see on the upcoming agenda items, DET is recommending that we move $500,000 from the Workers' Comp Fund over to employee benefits, and $500,000 from general fund reserve. So we're going to infuse another $1 million into this fund, and then we're going to kind of track it this last month or two. Hopefully the May and June's claims will go down, but we just don't know. Last year, May, total medical and prescription claims were $1.3 million, and June was $1.1. So the last 2 months of last year were low, but and if we follow that trend, maybe this number will look a little better. So that's what we're hoping for. The reason we can move money out of workers' comp is we've seen a really good year in paid claims. So we've got that extra $500,000 that we can move out of workers' comp to help fund employee benefits. And unless you have any other questions on any of the other pages, that's all I've got.
Questions for Danny? If not, is there a motion to approve his report? Or receive it?
Dave, motion to approve.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion. Right. Okay, John, our wellness update.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to reiterate what Danny said about Kevin. He's been great to work with, and
this is going to go on all day.
Yeah, he's been a great friend and a great mentor, and he's taught me a lot. So I really appreciate his help. Danny talks about the medical and prescription numbers, and I want to dig deeper into it just to show you really what's going on behind the scenes, because we can look at numbers all day long and really what's driving those numbers. So I want to give you a snapshot. I'm going to quickly address 4 items today. The first one is what's driving our percentage of increase, and really the second one would be where are our dollars being spent? Where are our claim dollars being spent? Where are employees' premiums, our employer premiums, where are those being spent? Really kind of remind you of our risk that we're dealing with, and then compare us to other plans across the nation. So on this first page right here, this reflects our big dollar claimants and then our big claims. And this is people with $50,000 or more in paid claims this year, or paid claims that are $50,000 or more. So that's where we're really seeing a big increase. we've had 49 people this fiscal year that had $50,000 in paid claims or more versus 44 last year. And those people account for $2.2 million in increase versus last fiscal year. So our large dollar claimant, our high dollar claimants are what are really directly impacting our increases. The good news is with our new healthcare highways, our new network coming in, a lot of those high dollar claims right now are going through places that we have some discounts at, but not really great discounts at. So when someone has a $150,000 claim at a local hospital, we get a discount. You know, once we get that new network in place, 7-1, we'll get a lot bigger discount. So we should see those numbers go down. Okay, we're always going to have high dollar claimants, but we can really directly impact those with that network change that's coming. So overall, you can see, you know, those high dollar claimants, those big claims are what's driving our increases, about to the tune of $2.8 million. And that's not going away, but we're doing proactive things behind the scenes to manage those costs. And stop loss has helped tremendously. You know, for the 5 people on our plan, they've incurred $2.7 million combined, and we're getting $1.3 million back. So we're getting money back, which is good. And on the next page, this is where our money's being spent at. And the 2 biggest indicators of the year that we're having right now are the first 2 lines. Inpatient and outpatient facility, those are up about 40% each. Those are directly related to our big claimants. This year so far, we've had 180 more days inpatient than we did last year. We have some big cases going on. Dialysis, kidney failure, organ transplants, cancers, but we're managing that risk appropriately. But that's what's driving our increases, inpatient and outpatient facility. Now, we have the 100% benefits. You know, we have those things, and people say, oh, well, you know, that's not really saving money, but it is, because every time somebody uses one of our 100% benefit options, we're saving money. In the inpatient or outpatient facility, if they don't choose to use that, it could be up to 10 times more costly. So now with that new network coming on, we're going to see direct impact to inpatient and outpatient facility. Now the good news is, if you go down to the outpatient professional, if you look in years past, we've seen increases every year, 30, 40% in outpatient. Those are finally tapering off. So we're seeing good results. Now, I like to net out all the money we receive back directly related to our claims, because if we look at gross claims, it's not a true indication of really what our net claim costs are, because we receive refunds back for claims, we receive money back from stop loss, so I like to take all that money off and really give a net figure. So overall net, we're about up 16%. And again, that's directly related to our big claimants this year. Now, just to remind the board what we're dealing with as a plan, it's very complex behind the scenes, all the programs that we have working together, but we have so much risk. We're dealing with so much risk with retirees under 65, with the aging population. Average employee age is 45 on our plan. You look at other companies around the metro, they have a young employee population, so we have a lot of risk. Compared to Union Public Schools, their plan costs are about the same. They have 1,600 employees on the plan. We have 1,290 employees and pre-65 retirees. We have 40% more risk from stop loss to them. So we have a big risk pool, and we're managing it appropriately. And every year, plans are supposed to go up a little bit. Natural trend goes up 10, 12, 16% a year. Every year, no matter what you do. We really avoided that so far. And what I've done is national trends for the last 5 years. This is excluding this year, but I've taken the actual average trend. There's plans that are higher, there's plans that are lower, but the actual trend level, I've compared that to the national trend level compared to us. For the last 5 years combined, we've came in 13% under what the national trend is for medical. And with our risk pool that we're dealing with, that's great. Prescriptions a little higher, we came in 4% higher than the national trend level. Now our dental's way up. And the reason being for that, about 4 years ago, the board increased our maximum that we pay per person from about $1,500 to $3,000. We have a very rich dental plan, one of the best around, but it's cost us money. So the real true picture of it compared to our peers after 5 years, hey, we're under 13% compared to the average increase over 5 years. This year, it's going to bump us up to about where we're at the average, and we're dealing with a lot bigger risk pool. But just again, we have some really great programs coming on 7/1 that we should be able to start seeing the impact in September. It'll take a couple months to get those programs going, actually see the claims coming in. But that's the picture of where we're at and really what's driving the increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion to receive these reports?
So I'll make a motion.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Now our BET report. Cody?
Good morning again. I'd like to kind of reiterate what people have said about Kevin. He's a great guy, been a friend and a mentor and a big brother in a lot of aspects, and I really appreciate everything that you've done for the county and for me personally.
We'll know next time to put those resolutions on the heel of the document.
There you go. Okay, as Danny mentioned, BET does have two recommendations for this body today, and they are referenced in items number 45 and 46. 45 will be a transfer of $500,000 from the general fund reserve to employee benefits, and 46 is a transfer from workers' comp fund of $500,000. Those are both recommendations from the BET. BET also has received all the department's estimate of needs. We've filtered through those twice. Still have a few questions of some departments, so we're still in the midst of scheduling some more meetings to clear up, get some clarification on some particular items. That way we can make a very informed, concise recommendation to this board as it relates to the fiscal year 17-18 budget.
Questions to Cody? Is there a motion to receive his report?
I have one question.
Oh,
Cody,
sure.
we based our budgets on our projections. Last year was approximately 90 million. This year it's only 91 million. So the money that we're all looking at in our new budgets, we all have needs. It's only about $1 million there to divide up amongst all the offices, correct?
Based on the
projection
that I saw in here, and I think Mr. Morrison will speak to that here in a minute, but yeah, it looks like there's not going to be a whole lot of additional money to allocate, so we're going to have to be smart and creative and try to, turn over every rock and look and see what, because I think everything that we've been presented in the estimate of needs, I think there can be an argument made on everything, how beneficial it is. It comes down to prioritizing those and figuring out, what we can bite off this time and maybe what we can push down the road just a little bit. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I wish we had the money tree so we could, do everything for everybody, but it is.
We all project in September, but we can't count that until we have it. So we all project in September there'll be a larger amount, but you can't count on what you don't have.
Certainly. I would agree with that.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I think you've got the motion and the second, right? No? All right. Anybody want to offer a motion and a second to receive his report?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Now a report from Mr. Skuda from the Sheriff's Office.
Yes, Mr. Skuda, come forward if you would, please, and share with us nothing but good news.
Well, I hope I bring some good news. First, I want to take a few minutes of your time and talk about Kevin Jacobs. No, I just want to say, Kevin, I've only known you for a few years, but I've definitely appreciated the friendship and the time you spent working with us on multiple things, and you will be missed. I'm going to touch just on three things for the Sheriff's Office financially for this fiscal year. The three biggest items. The first is payroll, inmate food, and inmate medical. As far as payroll goes, looks like we're going to be on track to where we're going to be okay there. We're trending to where I think we'll be fine. Second, on inmate food, we do have the temporary kitchen going. When we started the fiscal year, we encumbered, I believe it was $2.1 million is what we kind of anticipated for the entire year to be our food costs. And where we stand right now, it looks like even with the temporary kitchen going, that we will, at least as of the numbers I looked at earlier this week, we'll be fine on inmate food, not have to encumber any or hopefully not ask for any additional funding for the temporary kitchen situation. So those are two positives as well. And I look at this next one on inmate food as also being a positive when you compare it to last fiscal year. I'm going to give you guys two different numbers. One's kind of last fiscal year where we were at this point, and then where we're at this point for this fiscal year. Last year in March, after we had our March report for inmate medical, they were projecting that the overage on the cap was almost $1 million. They were showing the average on the cap to be $980,000. This year, we've been fortunate enough that we haven't had a whole lot of catastrophic claims. And what they're projecting at this point is $257,000 over the cap. But what we've seen over the last couple months is that number has started higher and is working its way down. And so I'm going to stay very optimistic that as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year, that number will continue to decrease as we get closer to June 30th. I do want to point out on the inmate claims, last year our top 10 projected totals for top 10 inmates, just not counting pharmacy, was a little over $700,000. That's just for the top 10 inmate costs. This fiscal year, the county total for all inmates, it's trending to be about that same amount. So what we're going to pay this year probably for all of the county inmates for the, not counting pharmaceuticals for off-site, is going to be equivalent to the top 10 from last year, where the county total last year was being projected at a little over $1 million. So to me, that's very good news, and I'm encouraged by what the numbers are trending like. And I'll keep you guys up to date on inmate medical specifically, as I am with BET every month. And those are the three things I wanted to discuss with you all today.
Questions, Mr. Skuta? Not, is there a motion to receive these reports?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. These are those items referenced earlier. Cash fund transfer for employee benefits, item 45. Mr. Hooton.
Approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 46, the workers' compensation fund to employee benefits.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
47, the cash fund appropriation and employees benefits, the amount of $500,000.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? What I heard. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Rob, are you giving us our Tyler Munis update?
Yes, Augie this morning is at District 1 helping out with work order implementation, so he's there working with Tex this morning, which is why he's not available. But next week we have Maureen Jelinas will be here on site on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and he'll be working with accounts payable, budgeting, and requisitions, and PO and receiving. And so we hope to just continue on the path of being able to implement all these modules in a way that the county finds useful and improvement from what we were doing previously.
Questions of Rob? Is there a motion to receive these reports?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 49, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, we have our brain here.
Good morning, everyone. Valuing all the property in the county is a tremendous task, and I just wanted you to understand that the numbers I'm going to provide you today is through the work and the efforts of all of our employees, and it's only through their work that I'm able to provide these numbers to you. In looking at our estimates, we have good news and a little bit of rough news as well. If you're looking at our estimates along the screen, you'll notice that we're looking at some changes in our real estate valuations, roughly 5 3/4% in comparison with last year, which is a good sign that the economy is still strong in Oklahoma. And our personal property, which is all of the business assets and so forth, we're starting to see an impact. It's really a delayed reaction in the oil and gas fields, particularly as we started to see either idle rigs come into the yards or the movement of those rigs out of the county into other places and other states. The public service I'm looking at, in the past I've always presented a small loss in that due to the intangibles issues that went into play a couple of years ago. But I believe that has played itself out. In the last years we've actually seen a small increase. So overall we're looking at about a 4 1/4% increase from previous. And if we move on to the next line, we're going to talk a little bit about TIF increment districts. You'll notice that we're looking at about $2.8 million in revenue that would be diverted to TIF. That money would normally, without TIF, would come back into county budget allocation. And as we progress through the TIF projects, you'll see that we see pretty significant growth in those, particularly in the direct side, which is the core of downtown, as well as some of the larger projects that you're starting to see, of course, with the Devon Tower a couple of years ago. We have a new TIF of TIF 11, which is the General Electric building, if you've ever seen that off of 10th Street and about Walnut. That will be a new TIF increment this year, which generates about 53 million market in taxable property, of which that property is applied for what's known as a 5-year tax exemption with the ad valorem division, which, if it qualifies, the state of Oklahoma will reimburse the county and all the schools for the property that qualifies for that program. That's a very substantial property that's coming online for the first year, as well as the First National Center TIF. That will be coming into play for the next couple of years with all the development and the change in that property. We did have a TIF that retired early last year, the Midwest City TIF, if you're familiar with the area along 29th Street and Air Depot across from Team Force Base. That TIF retired early, which allowed us to put that property back into the normal taxation status of that property, so that all the entities, including the counties and schools, receive the benefit of that property. Roughly, that was about $110,000, I believe, in the county money. But they will be creating a new TIF as well. If you've seen the new Warren Theater project that's going on in that area, so that will come online next year. But overall, you're looking at an increase of TIF of about 12.82%, so it's outpacing the growth that we normally see with the other properties of real estate. As we move forward down the sheet of those things that we are reimbursed for, particularly things that we are not reimbursed for, which are the homestead and additional homestead exemptions, which we haven't been reimbursed since 2001. That would roughly be about $70,000. And then we move into the 5-year manufacturing exemption, which is a delayed payment, roughly about a year when that money comes into play. So we received the monies last year for this year, and any future revenues will be seen next year. So you'll see the change in there of about $267,000 coming into play for us this year, and about $412,000 that we'll be waiting on for next year. But overall, we're looking at a rough amount of about $76.2 million in total revenue. And then, of course, once everything comes into play as to what we receive or what we lose to TIF, we're looking at about $74 million in that range, of which 10/11 for budget purposes is 67.2.
Do we have any of the TIFs that are about to expire?
The
original ones?
The next TIF that will expire on given time will be the original TIF, which was the OU Health Science Center. That will not come into play until about 2025.
Okay.
But they typically run for 25 years. So that would be in the first one. The second one, which is the core of downtown and Bricktown, was established in 2000. So we're looking in somewhere at those two about the same time period. Hopefully, if they retire early, that would be wonderful. But if not, we're looking at 2025, 26 with revenue.
And how do they retire early?
In the Midwest City case, the bonding capacity that they had placed on those properties, the debt was paid off, and that they had built their entire project area. All those pad sites had something built on them, and they were able to generate enough revenue to retire their debt early.
Huh.
So it was a win-win for us. The school will get to use that money to encumber against for bond capacity and so forth. So it's a win-win for all of us.
You anticipate that for any of these?
I have not seen anything other than that particular one. Typically, the other TIFs are much larger scale. They're not defined in such a small area where they're built out. So I thoroughly expect them to run the full length of the time period.
Okay. Other questions, Mr. Morrison?
Why do you think we've got a reduction in value on the Devon TIF?
Correct. Devon, that is based upon mostly the personal property that's in that building as it depreciates year to year. The building, the structure itself is valued consistently year to year, but being that the desk and chairs are a year older, they get a little more depreciation and so forth. And that's where you see the decrease from year to year.
Gotcha.
It seems we're getting more and more TIFs. Have they changed the rules on that and made it easier to qualify for a TIF?
Not that I'm aware of. Now, there are several new ones that will be coming on as well, from what I've been told, but the 499 Sheraton project will become a TIF with the Corridor Shore, and I'm assuming the Hotel Convention Center area will be as well. the Wheeler TIF, if you've seen that in the paper, across usually old airport, that will be a TIF. So there will be several major developments coming online that I anticipate will be increment districts.
No other questions. Is there a motion to receive these report?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 50, Mr. Hooton. Danny?
Hello again. All right, what we're going to look at now is our general fund revenue projections for next fiscal year. The number that Mike just provided is the property tax projection for next year. That's line number 1 under the column highlighted in yellow. The number he provided, $67,286,029, makes up about 80% of our projected revenue for next year. Obviously, there's several other categories that make up our general fund revenue. You can, I won't go through all the line items. All those totaled together for next fiscal year are estimated at $84,169,033. That is a increase of $3,074,081 or 3.8% over our current year budget projection revenues. The rest of the equation is fund balance. So we have revenue, 84, and then we have fund balance that factors into our budget for next year of $7.3 million. When you add those two categories together, we are estimating that we will have available $91,462,891 for our 17-18 budget. That's an increase of a little over $1 million, about 1.1%. I did want to touch on fund balance. You'll notice that fund balance is down from our current fund balance, $9,356,366. It's down over a little more than $2 million from our current year. Part of what goes into estimating fund balance is, right now we've got money sitting in reserve, $3.2 million, a little more than $3.2 million in reserve. Just based on the items that are on the BET watch list, the money that we're anticipating we're going to have to move from reserve over to employee benefits, we estimate at this time that we're going to lapse about $1.4 million of that $3.2 million in reserve. If we end up spending more than that, obviously that fund balance goes down, which will mean less in September. If we don't end up using as much as we anticipate, obviously that'll add to the fund balance, so we'll have a little more in September as well. Last year, the September supplement was $1.6 million. We don't know at this point. Again, it all depends how much revenues come in over what we project, also how much departments spend out of the remaining budget. Again, back to the seed corn. If they spend, we're estimating they're going to lapse about $1.5 million out of the department's budgets. That's about 2%. That's where it was last year. If it stays there, then we should be in good shape. If they spend more than that, that's that much money less that we have come September. So I hope that made sense.
Questions of Danny? If not, is there a motion to receive these report?
Motion to receive.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Item 51 comes from Commissioner Vaughn.
Mr. Chairman, item 51 is the follow-up to what the Board of County Commissioners voted to approve the other day, which was to move the Employee Benefits Office and the cost center to be established at a later date from County Clerk's Office to the Board of County Commissioners. This would fund the salaries for the individuals that would be utilized in that position for the balance of this fiscal year.
Discussion?
This probably should have been under the BOCC at all, the entire time, but now it is going to be. I believe that when we get ready to fund this, we're going to have to, we don't need to refund it. We've already funded. We need to make sure that the money that we spent to be good stewards, that it goes with the new office. The money needs that was budgeted for the employees, for the furniture, for the computers. If we spend all this again, we've already spent it once. We don't need to do it twice.
Is it possible we can just make this an effective date of July 1, so it's just clean, we don't have to unring a bell?
Do you anticipate?
I think we could, although the resolution that we passed was effective immediately.
Your question, I'm sorry.
No, I was just wondering if you were expecting a bell to ring.
Well, we're gonna have to come up with the money, and, the money's already been allocated to the clerk's office, and he's already got everything, all systems go, and so if we were just building this into the new adopted budget, it could be adjusted without having to strip it from his budget currently, and
Let's all remember that when we do take this and move it to this other entity, it does affect our office in that we will absolutely have to hire payroll people, and that we have to replace the procedures of payroll which are done by this benefits department. They also do payroll with us. So, I mean, there's just as long as everyone understands totally that when we move the entity, that we still have to restore part of the entity. At least two of the people will have to be replaced on my floor to aid with payroll. So in a perfect world, we would move that entity to wherever, I don't know where we're moving it, but wherever we move it, and that is great. But in reality, we still have to then restore my office operations, in that we still will have to have some additional help with payroll, which I would see that we have at least to bring on one or two people to shore up where that was done with the benefits department. So
the two people that you're going to need, and you said people in benefits was doing those jobs anyway.
At least two of the four anyway. Yeah.
Two of the four, right? And I understand that. But let me ask you, if two or three of them are going, why can't their salaries go with them? Does that make sense? It does to me, but I don't. You know, it just seems to me that you'll only need a couple of bucks, and that's, I'm saying that sillily, but you only need a couple of bucks to hire a couple of techs to do the payroll, and the benefits department head and the two people that work for him, as it is now, is a pretty big chunk, but it's not your chunk anymore.
Right. So, if all I'm saying is, are you asking, may you have the four staff and my total budget for paying for those four staff also, and then leave me without people that are doing payroll department, and therefore I'm having to go into my budget and hire two people and find the money for two people out of my budget, so it's hitting me twice? I don't think that's necessarily I mean, that's a pretty tough call right there.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
In my small world, you know, when the people go, the money goes too.
Sure, I understand that, and just as long as everyone understands that we're doing the functions now. I understand we want to move those functions to some other area, which is fine, but there are cross functions that happen in that we have, you know, certain people do more than one task, as many do, I'm sure, on all of our floors.
Sure.
And so we don't want to leave us short-handed, nor do we want to leave us under-budgeted. So I just want to make sure everyone understands, when you're taking four of my staff, and now what I understand, you're taking four of my staff and asking for the budget that goes with it, that's going to short me in that I still have to find two more to help with payroll, and now it's looking like I would have to find two people and the budget for that, and that seems like an awful lot to ask for right now. But I'll do, like I said before, I will do exactly and whatever this body needs us to do, and we'll do it the best of my ability.
I think Mr. Warren hit up on the key a while ago, and this is an issue that'll be resolved again as we go through as we're doing right now, going through the budget machinations for this coming year, because that's where then it will be picked up. So what we're looking at is the 120 that would be transferred from somewhere, either from the reserve, which is what this proposal is, to finish out this current fiscal year, and then it would be picked up in the budget process that's going on now for next fiscal year.
Now that we've created the new entity, it's already been created, wouldn't it make sense to leave them right where they're at? We still have to prepare offices for these people. They're under the VOCC. We leave them where they're at. They can stay there until July 1st. Nothing changes, except the fact that the only one could fire them would be the VOCC. They're under you, but they could stay in the same offices until July 1st. By then, we should have new offices prepared for them. That way, the equipment and everything can be moved, and it wouldn't interfere with his budget. He can put in for 2 new employees for next year's budget, and that solves all issues and problems. And they just sit where they're at. They can still help with payroll and do some things if the VOCC allows that. And it all works out.
Mr. Sullivan has a comment.
Mr. Chairman, a question. How much trouble would it be to do, like you suggested or thought about, doing this all at once at the same time at the end of this fiscal year and the beginning of the next fiscal year?
If I can address that, I think I've got some additional information I could share probably. The reason this was stated as an amount not to exceed, and makes that the upper end. So it could be considerably less than that amount, Ms. Johnson and others that might be concerned about that amount of money. But it was planned for that to come from the reserve fund so that it wouldn't be too impactful to Mr. Hooten's budget. But the way this is going to work, as I understand it, Rick, is that we've created the office basically under the BOCC, and now we have to advertise, basically, we have to populate that office. The 4 people that are currently serving in that capacity aren't necessarily the employees that will fill that capacity. Exactly. We have to publish notice, post, the fact that we're hiring those individuals. People must apply, interviews. I think it could easily take until near the end of the fiscal year anyway.
And so basically, they would be filling in just like an interim, and they would be filling in the jobs on a temporary basis, finish up this year, and then we advertise, we hire, we set salaries, and we do it all at that time.
The thing is, we don't know who will be hired, and we don't know when they would actually transfer as far as going to work on, for a different entity. That's the thing that's not a given. So this would simply create a fund from General Reserve from which to draw in the event we got this accomplished before the end of the fiscal year. And it is a process.
Of course, I voted against it anyway, but I didn't realize that the resolution was effective immediately. I thought we were just going to explore it. So you think that as of this second, for instance, John Wilkerson reports to the VOCC?
I don't, because what we've done is we've created the office under the VOCC, but we don't have any employees. They still work for Mr. Hooten.
Okay.
At this point.
I just clarifying. I mean, that's what I assumed.
And the people that actually populate that office at some date in the future, whenever that is, may or may not be the 4 people that are currently serving in that.
And let me say on the record, the 4 people that we're talking about are very fine employees, and they're doing a great job, and there's been nothing suspect or strange about anything they've done. They've done a great job up to now, and I hope that those people stay working for the county. In this little transition, there's a whole movie called Lost in Transition that I hope none of the staff get lost in transition, because that's not the intent at all. These are very good people that we're wanting to hold on to, and so I'm saying that because I really want to see these people stay.
And I agree 100%, but the district attorney has told us we have to post those jobs. Yeah. We can't just pick up 4 people and move them into, new positions under a new.
And rightfully so, yes.
And I mean, it goes without saying, with an $800,000 reserve that we're looking at for next year, these salaries may or may not be able to be what we can offer. Especially if the clerk's office is not going to be able to reduce their budget.
I can't imagine them not being able to reduce their budget in some way. Certainly not at the level that it is now.
The clerk's office will, of course, work with you.
benefits, yeah.
Of course.
But I cannot imagine, you not needing all that money.
No, I mean, we're not, I don't think any of us are saying that. If you're taking 4 staff, we're only asking that we get help with half of them. That's all that I'm saying. So, of course, we're happy. However, this ends up timing-wise is the important thing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move.
I want to be clear.
Well, the fact that you're gonna have to repost for these jobs, they could stay, 2 of the staff could stay with you as far as that goes. They don't have to apply for these jobs.
That's what I was gonna say.
Simply stay right where they're at.
Quite likely, there may be some of them that, who want to emphasize their work with the payrolls, therefore they may not even want to apply for some of these jobs.
The 4 individuals you're speaking about are very, very good at what they're doing, and they do benefits really well, and
they do.
It would behoove
the county for them to want to apply.
To continue.
I agree. Mr. Chairman, I move item 51.
Second.
Question first.
Sure, Mr. Sullivan.
What created the necessity to advertise this? Was the fact that it's a new department or just the fact of the transfer? Because, we did a transfer here this morning without any advertising. One guy left and 2 guys stepped this place this morning from here.
Well,
I'm thinking we create this as a transfer and not advertising.
I defer to the DA on that, if you don't mind. Why do we have to post these positions?
Am I understanding your question to be the transfer that you're referring to between Mr. Graw becoming?
I don't think your microphone is on. Aaron, I don't think your microphone is on.
Working for the county, they're going to move to another office in the county. Why do we have to advertise that?
Well, and a large part of that is based on the county handbook. All 8 elected officials have the power to hire and fire and control all of their employees. There's nothing either in the handbook or in the law that allows one county officer to declare, because I want some fine employees of Mr. Hooten's or Mr. Freeman, that they shall now become mine because I have waved this magic wand. It just doesn't work that way. A new department that did not previously exist under the control of the VOCC has now been created. And as Commissioner Vaughn appropriately explained, to fill that would require posting and hiring, development of new job descriptions, because they may or may not be the same as what these 4 individuals who have been performing these functions under Mr. Hooten's office. So it's not just a sweep, a transfer of 4 people from here to 4 people to another place. There will be a lot of decisions and potentially a lot of changes, and the way to effectuate that is for the BOCC to make a number of those decisions regarding their newly created department.
And the law requires that, or you think policy?
Both. There's nothing in the statutes, for instance. We all know that as county officials and public bodies that they are only allowed to do what the statutes allow them to do. The statutes allow each of you as elected officials to hire and control the employees that you need to perform your functions. The statutes do not give you authority to declare other employees of other elected officials by unilateral decision to be yours.
I think late last year, we hired some young man, left the sheriff's department, we hired him.
Right.
That's not the same.
Well, but even though it doesn't really look like leaving one employer and joining another one, because, they are all county employees, and we've heard a lot of talk about the county family, and we think of them that way, but it's really no different than in that example. And when Mr. Buchanan left Commissioner Vaughn's employment, he submitted a formal resignation to Commissioner Vaughn, was formally hired by Mr. Hooten, submitted a formal resignation to Mr. Hooten, and was formally hired again. There are still those formalities that took place.
From
But-
one existing position to another existing position.
Right.
So, were they posted?
Well, there's nothing that requires you as elected officials to post and advertise for your chief deputies and your higher administrative officials. You certainly can if you want to, and how you go about making those selections is really up to you as individual officers. With this new department, it will be up to the BOCC to define what the role these new employees will perform, what their salaries will be. Those are all those sort of employment management decisions that will have to be made by the board, and how they want to fill them.
Does the commissioner already know they're gonna need 4 people, or 53, 52?
We don't know. I mean, I don't know.
In my opinion, it's just a big mess, but I think it was working fine the way it was, and the funding was where it was, so that's why I voted against it. But now that that was the prevailing decision of the board, is there a motion on this item?
I make the motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No. Item 52, Mr. Hooton. Or anybody? Do we have any?
I'll move item 52. This
Yeah.
is standard authorization to bring the Board of Equalization in for their hearings this time of year.
I second
it. Thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 53, Mr. Vaughn.
This is to add Rick Buchanan as an alternate to the budget evaluation team. Mr. Grawl will assume that position, and Mr. Buchanan will be available from our office as an alternate.
You're moving it?
Move approval, yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 54, Mr. Hooton.
This is just to add Duggan and Volson as the alternate for the handbook committee.
Who is that?
Duggan and Volson.
So you're punishing Doug for something?
No.
I move approval.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Elected official comments, Mr. Sullivan.
I think I've had more than my share today.
Mr. Freeman.
I do have one quick comment. Pleased to announce that approximately 9:49 this morning, the bond issue totally closed. We ended up with a true interest cost of 1.819%, and the total savings to the taxpayers of this refinancing is $1,082,056. So very pleased that process has occurred, keeping in mind that nothing else changed. What I mean by that, it will still be on the tax rolls at the same time, and still be paid off at the same time as the original bond issue.
Good. Mr. Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple of things. I want to remind everybody we're having a reception after our adjournment. Now, we do have an executive session. I don't expect it to last a long, long time, so if you could stay around and have the opportunity, or if you wanted to go on up to the office, that would be fine on 6. But we'll have a reception. But remember that after we come back into session and after we adjourn, we're going to have a little video you might want to see. And then we'll have the reception up in my office. So hopefully you'll stick around for that after executive session. The other thing was that the commissioners certainly know. I don't know how many of the budget board know, but in 2008 we passed a bond issue that would provide for some flood relief in Oklahoma County. Ms. Johnson has been actively working that, wherever she is, to clear out the Crutcho addition that is constantly being flooded. Deer Creek has its own issues. This is the floodway. I wanted to share with you, this is the floodway. Some of you may or may not have seen this map. This is the floodway that passes right beneath Deer Creek High School, which is located right here. This road continually is out of service during heavy rains. And so we plan to build a bridge, and we've been working on it since 2008. There will be a flood control bridge built that will span this floodway so that people can access in and out. We already have bridges in this location. To provide for emergency vehicles and things of that nature. The reason I bring it up today is that 45 minutes ago, the bids were open on this bridge, and it's been in design, in environmental, and in right-of-way acquisition since 2008. So this is kind of the culmination of that whole thing. Is the bids were open today. We think we had about 5 or 6 good bidders, so hopefully we'll get a great price on the project, and we'll be able to start once the contract is actually led by ODOT. We'll be using some CERB funds available along with the bond money that was provided by the residents of Oklahoma County. So we're excited about this project and glad to finally be getting started with it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tomorrow, isn't it?
Excuse me?
It'll be
Yes,
tested tomorrow.
probably will. It's been tested many times.
About to get the best report from Ms. Johnson we've ever gotten. Mr. Warren.
Go Thunder.
Mr. Hooten.
I just want to thank everyone. I just finished my first 100 days on the job, and it has been very, very interesting, and it's a pleasure to work with all of you all.
Okay, any citizens to be heard? Seeing none, any new business? Hearing none, is there a motion to recess into executive session?
Motion. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, is there a motion to return to regular session?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion on item 59?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we deny the request under item 59.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor say aye.